What are you going to do when the church breaks your heart? Gwen Burens, Episcopal priest and wife of the UU minister John Burens, asked this question of every seminary student she encounters. If we spend enough time in any relationship, our hearts will be broken. If you have loved someone and lost them, or loved someone and been wounded by them, perhaps in your grief, you bottled that place where the person touched your heart the deepest. Likewise, if you were raised in a religious community that cast you out or offered hostility where there should have been love, or set impossible standards grounded in shame and self-hatred, you may have bottled up that part of your heart that loved to be in church. The part of your heart that loved praise music and ritual, incense and prayer. You thought that had all been lost to you, that you had to let it all go. You thought you needed to stay in your head, to rely solely on your rationalism, your intellect, in order to protect the wounds of your heart. What can we do with our hearts that have been broken? How do we get them out of the bottle? We must allow our broken hearts to expand in size. Allow me to explain. I remember walking the halls of my public high school in Knoxville, Tennessee at the lunch hour. Did I say public high school? It was a public high school. This is important. At the lunch hour, finding youth ministers from the local Calvary Baptist Church seated at the lunch tables, encouraging kids to come pray and to come to church later Wednesday night. I remember the prayer meetings before school around the flag, the teachers telling me they were praying for me, and it didn't sound kind when they said it. You can close that door. Thank you, Bruce. The classmates and kids who reminded me daily I was going to hell unless I could accept Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. Well, my feelings of both isolation and disdain for their beliefs grew in tandem. Each day I entered that school building, I carried my heart around in a bottle. That bottle that became stronger and more calcified as this went on. The funny thing is, right next to that bottle around my neck, I also wore a chalice necklace. And on Sunday, I went to my Unitarian church, where together, my friends and I would revel in excoriating our Christian classmates. We would crack jokes at their expense and relate over our rational righteousness, high and mighty, keeping that bottle corked tight. What a paradox, right? How my classmates struggled to grasp the true meaning of Christ's love. Meanwhile, over at the UU Church, we struggled to grasp the true meaning of religious acceptance and honoring the worth and dignity of every person. Years later, I found myself in a different hall at a different school. It was my seminary in New York City, and Eric Garner had just recently been choked to death by police on Staten Island, and it was Ash Wednesday. Earlier that week, I had gone to Staten Island with James. Remember this? We marched with Al Sharpton and Eric Garner's family. I had stood on the very spot where he had been murdered in cold blood and in broad daylight. Then on Ash Wednesday, I sat in the cavernous Gothic sanctuary, and a Christian friend sat beside me that Ash Wednesday, and we wept together. Someone up there on the chancel holding a bowl of ashes, with tears rolling down their cheeks, spoke the words, "From love you have come, and to love you shall return." And I wanted to feel the warm embrace of welcome in that moment and to share the simmering rage of one body that had been harmed and was feeling the wound all together. And so I stood up and I received the ashes painted on my forehead. This and many more moments like this, all my pain and anger against the Christians of my childhood fell away. And like the Grinch who once stole Christmas, my heart grew 3 times larger that day. These old feelings come around again. Now living in the Southeast once again, I face them out there like past demons. But if I'm growing my soul, I am different this time. I'm different each time. Like the Unitarian poet T.S. Eliot's beautiful piece about the religious journey called Ash Wednesday, where he writes, "At the first turning of the second stair, I turned and saw below the same shape twisted on the banister, under the vapor and the fetid air, struggling with the devil of the stairs who wears the deceitful face of hope and despair. At the second turning of the second stair, I left them twisting, turning below. There were no more faces, and the stair was dark, damp, jagged like an old man's mouth driveling beyond repair, or the toothed gullet of an aged shark. At the first turning of the third stair was a slotted window, bellied like the fig's fruit, and beyond the hawthorn blossom and a pasture scene, the broad-backed figure dressed in blue and green enchanted the Maytime with an antique flute. Distraction, music of the flute, stops and steps of the mind over the third stair. Fading, fading, strength beyond hope and despair. Climbing the third stair. Here you are again at the turning of the stair, walking up the spiral staircase of your own journey with faith, your journey with religion, with I and thou, with meaning. Maybe the journey isn't a beanstalk or a staircase leading upward, keeping your head in the clouds, but surely it is a spiral, a cycle, and the wounds keep resurfacing in unexpected ways, as C.S. Lewis reminds us. For in grief, nothing stays put. One keeps on emerging from a phase, but it always recurs, round and round. Everything repeats. Am I going in circles? Or dare I hope I am on a spiral? Reverend Gretchen Haley reinforces the spiraling of the lifelong religious journey when she writes, because we actually don't grow our souls in a straight line, but more in the pattern of one of my favorite playwrights, Gretchen's and mine, Susan Laurie Parks, calls Rep and Rev, or repetition and revision. Influenced by jazz and the use of a similar musical refrain and repetition with slight revisions each time, Rep and Rev tells a drama of accumulation. Our path of spiritual growth, it doesn't start all over with each discovery or each change of heart. Every new experience meets the past, and we repeat, revise, we grow and become. Rather than imagining we are ascending vertically toward a single destination, we need to understand our growth as growing in every dimension, an ever-expanding embrace of contradictions, of tensions, so that we might embrace more and more of the world and of life. there is a deep humility required in understanding growth in this way. It asks us to center mystery in every direction and in every part of ourselves. And despite what you might think, as a progressive faith movement, Unitarian Universalists have struggled to practice this humility. For example, when we embraced a humanist-centered religious path in the 1930s, many understood it as a full break from past centuries of Unitarian Christianity, a discovery entirely rational and scientifically sound, a new start entirely on a whole new path towards spiritual success. As Unitarian minister James Freeman Clark asserted, onward and upward forever. But in reality, our humanist impulses, well, they were not actually an entirely new path at all. They were a re-engagement of our long and winding past that prioritized humanity, the human experience, relationships, and this worldly justice, justice on this earth. They were a repetition of that past and a revision, rep and rev. The writers of the Humanist Manifesto didn't think of it that way, however. They were set on drawing a stark line between those past paths and a new, real truth, which is maybe why their manifesto failed to engage what humanist William Schultz describes as the interior haunts of the unconscious, of guilt, passion, pain, which are so central in the Christian belief system that they were trying to reject. Staking their claim in the realm of some entirely new path, they missed the chance to meet our tradition's ghosts as a heart-expanding gift, a soul-expanding gift. If we were to attempt to write the Humanist Manifesto today, I'm not sure it's possible that we would forget to talk about pain. I mean, it's here all the time now. The realities we face in our everyday push us to confront so much, too much, that breaks our hearts. It would be simpler just to pick a narrative, one single belief that is black and white with tools that are confident and clear. It would be easier to declare that what we now know, this place we have arrived, will ever stay. It is righteous and right. But if you are looking for complete consistency in a religion, you won't find it here. The human tradition of making meaning, creating ritual, it is mysterious, it is complex, and it holds many contradictions. And the good news is, you don't have to carry your heart trapped in a bottle anymore. You don't have to stay only in your rational mind to protect your heart from breaking. If you can get comfortable with mystery, I mean really comfortable with mystery, this is where you belong. If you desire to learn and grow and change always, this is where you belong. If you want to lift others up and make this world and this faith better for those who struggle in hardship out there, make it better, make their lives better, and here, well, this is where you belong. If you see the truth within many religious traditions, this is where you belong. If you feel a religious call, I mean a faith call, to work on healing racism and oppression in the world and in the heart, this is where you belong. And you always have a choice. You can choose not to dig into individualism. You can choose to embrace the good that religious community offers. You can always grow your soul, expanding beyond what you thought was your capacity to love or to hold the complexities of this world we are navigating. The entire mode of spiritual growth is to grow the S-I-Z-E of your souls so you can embrace more and more complexity and mystery. How can you make your heart supple enough to embrace change and accept more of the world. I just keep doing this. It's the embrace, right? Embrace in the prayer. This is what you will do, not if, but when the church breaks your heart. You will know the wounds of today are not the same hurts from your past. You will know this is a time of repetition and revision. You will hold complexity and inconsistency. If you want to heal the old wounds, you will stay open and embrace more change and transformation than you ever thought possible. What I'm saying is you can have it all. We need not flatten our religious life, our spiritual world with either or. You can have rational thoughts and a belief in God. You can have intellectual freedom and holy prayer. You can have praise music and atheism, yes. You can take your precious, wounded heart and expand it to 3 times the size or beyond, growing your soul, and take another step in the spiraling journey of your life's singular purpose: to love.